Hi everyone, my name is Keka Dasgupta and I am the founder of a global personal development brand called The Art of Lifing. I am so glad that you stopped by today because today I'm talking about a topic that is really near and dear to my heart, and that is helping kids feel less anxiety today. So I do a lot of programs around gratitude-centered leadership and anti-bullying and mental wellness, where I go into different schools, I talk to students and teachers and parents on a regular basis, and we focus on helping to reduce bullying and promote social and emotional learning among our kids today so that we can build stronger and more resilient kids. And one of the things that I have found in speaking to many parents is that we're facing a common problem across the board in many cases, where students are academically doing well in school, they want to strive to do well, but so many of these kids are feeling a real sense of anxiety. They're feeling stress and they're dealing with self-worth issues. They're feeling a lot of pain inside that they don't necessarily know how to communicate. And so in talking to some parents, I've had a few that have encouraged me to share some of the work that I'm doing at schools and with teachers, and it's very much applicable to parents at home. I'm a mom of two boys as well, who are 9 and 13, and I feel like there is a lot of collective learning that we can have from each other. So if we want to help our kids feel less anxious, we want them to be successful but not as stressed and not as anxious, the natural thing for us as parents to do is to say, okay, I need to read a book, I need to take a course, I need to attend a webinar. What can I do to help figure out what I need to do to fix my children or help teach my kids? But I'm going to throw a wrench into the formula over here. And really what I'm going to talk about here is that the key solution that often is the key to success for our kids is not to just teach, but as parents, we have to teach by example. And oh, this is a hard one, especially for me too, being the perfectionist that I am. I want to be that really great mom who's perfect, and of course I'm not. And I think that for many parents, we have that challenge, and we look for external solutions to be able to help our kids. But here's the thing. There are four key questions that I think are critical that we have to ask ourselves when it comes to parenting so that we can move ourselves from teaching our kids to teaching by example. And so these questions are part of something that I call am I questions. Am I doing these things? So let's start with the first one here. The very first question you should ask yourself, or all of us parents should ask ourselves, is, am I being consistent? Which means, can my kids count on me? You know, when I am asking them to do something and I'm showing that there's consequences to that behavior, do they know that when I'm saying that this is going to be the consequence, you know, you might get your electronics taken away or you might have to go into a timeout, whatever the consequence might be, can they count on me? Do they know that I mean it and I will follow through? And conversely, on the positive side too, if we promise our kids something, you know, you did a great job and I'm going to take you out today and we're going to go see a movie and spend some time together. Are we committing to that? And when we make those commitments to our kids, do our kids know that they can count on us? Now, just let's imagine this scenario from a parenting scenario. Let's take it to a work scenario. If your team members say to you that they're going to get you something by a certain particular time, or if they say they're going to present some facts and stats for an important project to you, if your boss promises that they're going to do something for you, isn't it normal for us to just expect that they are going to do that? And if they don't, and we feel like we can't count on them, how does that make us feel? You know, with kids, so often we are the ones in charge as parents. We're the ones who are telling our kids what to do, but we don't often realize that the rules we put on the kids are the rules we have to exemplify ourselves. So this is really important. You know, my kids know when I say something and I say this is what's going to happen, they know it's going to happen. But in that process too, I'm very careful with the things that I say because I have to make sure that I can follow through. You know, I come from a South Asian background, and many of our parents, when we were growing up, among me and my friends, you know, we would routinely hear, if you don't do this, I'm never going to speak to you again. And I'm very careful never to say that to my kids because that's not a realistic option. If I say to my kids, I'm never going to speak to you again, how do I keep that promise? You know, then it becomes an empty promise and it becomes empty conversations that aren't very meaningful. So, number one, am I consistent? The second am I parenting question is entirely focused on being present and listening. Am I present and listening to my kids? And I'm guilty of this. I think many of us today are guilty of this. We are multitasking as parents. We're trying to manage so many different things. And it is hard sometimes to just let everything go and be present with our kids. But our kids can feel that. If you've ever had your kids come to you like, mommy, 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 or daddy, 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 and it doesn't stop. Or, mid-conversation, I found my kids, for example, who've talked to me and they're telling me about something. As an example, my kids play video games, some of which already go way over my head. So they're talking about the game, the characters, this and that, and I'm completely not following what they're saying. And so I'm like, and then periodically I feel the urge to pick up my phone and check if there's any emails, or I'm like, oh, I need to respond to this mid-conversation. But quite often that's when my kids call me out and they're like, mom, you're not listening to me. And so, I put myself in their shoes sometimes in the way that I think about it and say, if I was talking to somebody and really sharing something through my heart in that moment, and somebody picked up their phone, or somebody got onto the computer with their email, or somebody started to, just walk away or do something different and wasn't listening to me, how would that make me feel? And I think as parents, we quite often have to make sure that we really stay disciplined that way. And so that when we give our kids some time, we really need to stay present. And here's the thing, parenting is hard. When we are trying to focus on work and parenting and taking care of ourselves and taking care of our relationships, there's so much around. So we do have to be kind to ourselves. And I'm not saying that we have to be 100% attentive 100% of the time with our kids. We are human. But the thing that I focus on and I recommend for parents is that every single day, dedicate a particular amount of time when you are 100% present with your kids. That means the phones are away, the computer's away, TV's away, anything else is away, and you are entirely focused on your kids. And what you'll find is that some of the best conversations happen then. How many times have we sat at a dinner table and said, so how was your day today? And we get, yeah, it was good. Or what did you do today? Nothing. We get those questions and answers all the time. And sometimes it feels like we're prying things out of our kids. But quite often when we just sit around and we hang around and we don't have anything particular that we need to do and we are 100% focused, I can guarantee you that is often when you're going to get the best, most meaningful conversations. Because so often with our kids, when we want to converse with them, we need to be able to converse with them on their time. We need to be able to help them and encourage them to open up when they're ready. But just imagine, if you are going through a difficult time and your friends come up and they start to talk to you, you might not be ready to open up. But when you're ready and when you seek somebody out, isn't it really important that our friends and our loved ones are there for us? So as parents, even though our kids are little, their emotions matter to them, and it's really important we pay that attention to them. Okay, third parenting question is, am I open and am I transparent? This is a tough one for a lot of parents who've grown up with authoritative parents, who say like, this is the way that it is and you have to listen to me. But in this day and age, our kids are exposed to so much more than we think they are. They're listening to headlines, they're hearing from their other friends. There's world news that's taking place all around us, and that access to that information is all around us. So kids are exposed to much more, and our social culture is moving towards a place of being way more open. Just think about how much corporate culture has changed over the last little while. If you know that something is up at your company and you know that your management and your leaders are not being forthcoming with you, they're not sharing everything, how does that make you feel? It's a natural sense of insecurity. Well, our kids are watching us all the time. And we can tell them whatever we need to tell them, but they can feel our energy. They can see the micro expressions we have in our faces, and the best thing that we can do is help our kids understand that life is going to have many ups and downs and many roller coasters, and then that's okay. That when things grow up, we can enjoy it and we can celebrate. When things go down, we know that there are better times ahead. And if we are too much of the helicopter parent, if we try to shield our kids way too much from things, then they're really never going to know how to respond in difficult situations. And so one of the things that I always talk about is, with my kids, I if there's a difficult circumstances coming up and I can't make sense of it, I share with them age appropriately what's appropriate for them. But I share with them, mommy's having a hard time. I don't know what the answer is to this, but I do know things are going to be okay. I trust that things are going to be okay. I'm taking action to work towards whatever the problem is I'm trying to address. But by being open and transparent with my kids, I help them to see that I'm going on this journey. And that's where I transition from just teaching to teaching by example, so that my kids can see me and they can see the things that I'm doing. And they can see that even when things are difficult, I'm not freaking out. I am diligently focusing on being present in the moment, feeling the feels that I need to, and working through it, so that when they see that I come out from it, then in the future, when they have challenge in their life, they're going to know, yeah, you know what? Mom was able to do it. I'm going to be able to do it as well. And then this one is probably the most obvious one, the last question, the I am parenting question. But I also think that there are some nuances here that are really important. And that is, am I loving? But loving in a way that my kids need that loving. So, we often come and shower our kids with love, and we focus on the things that we want to do in terms of expressing our love to them in our way. So if you're familiar, for example, with the 5 love languages, it's a free quiz you can take online that shares with you the way in which you express love. So some people are naturally, they have more of an affinity towards physical affection and showing love that way. Others want affirmations through words. Others still may want affirmations through gifts or through service in terms of doing things. So, I love my husband, therefore I'm going to do the dishes and I'm going to do the laundry and I'm going to clean up the house because that's the way that I show love. So we as adults have propensities towards these different areas of love. So do our kids. So, I would recommend doing the quiz with your kids, for example. You can do it online and it's free, but you can get a sense of where your kids have an affinity towards showing affection. So as an example, between my 2 boys, one of my boys appreciates the physical affection. You did a great job. I'm going to come and give him a really big hug and just be around him physically and show him love and affection that way. My other boy, on the other hand, is much more, his preference is much more through words of affirmation. So I know that if he does something, it's really important to him and it's more valuable to him that I come up and I give him some accolades and I verbally compliment him and encourage him versus just giving him a hug. So knowing what makes your kids tick, what matters to them most is really important. And, I think this goes without saying, but, as parents, we often learn the hard way that our kids are unique individuals and are so different. When I had my first son, I was like, okay, I'm a first-time parent. I'm figuring this out. And then after that, when I had my second son, I thought, oh, in my head, psychologically, I was thinking I'm going to go through the same process again. And yet my little one is so different from my older one, and they're both uniquely special. So that means that when I'm disciplining them, when I'm encouraging them, when I'm showing them love and affection, each of them have different needs. And so I have to focus on that. We sometimes forget that, as parents. If you think about being a manager at work, when I was working at IKEA, one of the leadership programs I was part of, one of the first questions they said to us was that when you're a leader, when you're a manager or a leader and you are leading a team, how do you best be the manager that you are needed to be? And the answer was that we needed to mold ourselves and deliver our messages the way that our team members needed us to be. Same thing with parenting. We need to be able to be the parent that our children need. And sometimes that means the way that we are with one child is very different from the way that we are with another child. So learning to love our kids the way that they need the love is another really important thing that can help our kids recognize and understand that they can reduce their anxiety. At the end of the day, every human being, including our little human beings, including our little kids, have 3 intrinsic needs inside of them. Am I being seen? Am I being heard? And do I matter? Do you see me? Do you hear me? And do I matter? And so those are things that are important to us as adults, but those are also really important to kids. And so, one of the things that I focus on every night before I go to bed, one of the things that I ask parents to do, and even teachers during the day when they think about it, is, are we helping our kids feel like they're being seen, feel like they're being heard, and feel like they matter? That means listening to their opinions, validating what they're going through. If they're going through a difficult time, letting them know we're going to support them without judgment. And so, the key thing here is that we need to understand our kids' love languages in terms of what helps them to feel our affection in the most impactful way. We also need to think about what our kids' currency is. You know, what's most important to them that we can either help to increase or decrease based on their behavior, so they can see that there's consequences that are good and bad for their actions. And, you know, the other thing is that this is one of the programs that I do in a lot of corporate companies that I think is so applicable to kids too, is that, you know, we want our employees to come into work every day feeling intrinsically motivated, you know, so having that fire lit up from inside of themselves, where they're coming in and saying, I really want to do a really great job with my day today at work. Kids are the same way. You know, we're teaching them new things. We're teaching them to discover themselves. So if we can find that intrinsic motivation inside of them and then really foster and cultivate that, that's really critically important. You know, my older son loves baseball. His goal is to be an MLB player when he grows up. And so anything and all things baseball does not feel like work for him. So there have been many times where we've looked at a particular project and said, okay, you know, like I want him to learn about leadership. I said to him, okay, go find different MLB players in the league that you admire and find examples online of their leadership. How have they been leading in different circumstances? So leading through hardship, leading through championships, how do they motivate people? And come back to me with examples of that. Well, now he's in a world that he loves, and those are the kinds of projects that don't even feel like work to him, but he's learning in the process. Whereas my little one, not so crazy about baseball, not to the same extent. So if I gave him the same type of project, it would be a run-of-the-mill type of project for him. So I look at my little one and see what his currency is, and then I adapt things for him. So, you know, when we do this as teachers, when we do this as parents, with any child that we are focusing in as and being a good role model, it's so important for us to teach by example and then really focus on what our kids need. So there you have it, the 4 questions in the I Am Parenting series. Am I consistent? Am I present and listening? Am I open and transparent? And am I loving in the way that's going to have the biggest impact on my kids? Let's show our kids that they are seen, that they are heard, and their opinions matter. When we focus on teaching by example, we are giving our kids the greatest gift, because not only will they focus and learn to succeed academically, but they're going to learn to succeed in life. They're going to be resilient. They're going to be stable and strong in their emotional and social learning. And we're going to set them up to be amazing leaders themselves. I hope you found that helpful. I have a download that you can take that's a little bit of a cheat sheet with some of this as reference. And if you have any questions, do let me know. Just send me an email. I would love to hear from you. Shoot me a message on social media too if you want to. Love to hear from you, and let's keep this discussion going. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.